Is there a liability of the NGCP for the franchise tax that were collected being passed on from 2011 to 2023? Can we have the answer? Which have been tackled very, very, lengthily in these proceedings. First 3 points pertain to allegations of violations of NGCP of 3 important provisions of its franchise. Let me start, Mr. Chair. So 3 about the franchise. 2 will pertain to the Constitution. And we are going to proceed to that after the 3 that allegedly were violated by the NGCP. First, Section 8. It has been alleged by some of our colleagues that there is a violation of Section 8, which is about dispersal of ownership. We will know from our chair of the ERC the final determinative decision on this supposedly Section 8 dispersal of ownership. Can you tell this honorable committee what was the final decision?
ERC.
Mr. Chair, I think as discussed earlier by the members who were part of the ERC at that time, the majority approved the mode of dispersal aside from the extension that was provided under Section 8 of the
Right. So therefore, there is no violation of Section 8 because 4 out of 5, the majority and 3 are here, decided that indeed the proviso, a proviso, Mr. Chairman, in law, are exceptions to the main provision. The main provision is through public offering. In other words, to have offering of shares to the public. The second one is through the stated proviso, exception, the listing of a PSA of any company having 30% dome. And so it was decided, therefore, well, of course, there is a dissenting opinion. And of course, the dissenting opinion of Mama Seda is always very good, as all dissenting opinions are. They're always, they give out the other reasons. But unfortunately, in this country, the rule of law provides that in the collegial body, like the ERC, the majority will have to prevail. And therefore, my question is, that is now the final decision. May we know whether any entity, any organization, any person has questioned this decision, which said that the NGCP has complied with Section 8. May we know if they have gone to the Supreme Court on this. Is there any question, Master?
Mr. Chair, we are not aware if
None. Therefore, on the first issue of Section 8 being violated, it has not been violated. It has been complied, Mr. Chairman. Very clear from ERC itself. So, what are we talking about in terms of dispersal? There is now a decision which has become final, no question to the Court of Appeals or the Supreme Court. That is now the law of the case, and it cannot be relitigated under the principle of res judicata. Second, Mr. Chairman, there is allegation that the provisions on taxes have not been paid. This is now Section 9. So we're through with Section 8. Clearly, NGCP is compliant. Section 9, tax provisions. We have the franchise tax of 3%. There have been talks that NGCP is liable to refund to the people and to the consumers the 3% tax collected from 2011. Mr. Chairman, may I now know from the ERC chairman, is it not that in 2011, the ERC has approved the pass-on provisions that the franchise tax is passed on? And therefore, in other words, their collection for that has been legal, and I thank the new ARC because you have already made some decision wherein last 2022 or 23, 2023, that is the reckoning period. So may I now know whether is there a liability of the NGCP for the franchise tax that were collected being passed on from 2011 to 2023? Can we have the answer?
Mr. Chair, we have been asked to study that by Congress. So we are still evaluating that.
Of course, that is not the answer because it is by law. The law was the ERC approval of this pass on. So there can be no study on that. The decision of the regulator is that they can pass on. Now you have made another regulation, maybe now. From the time that you sent, did NGCP already comply with no more pass on of the franchise tax? Maybe not from you.
They complied, Mr. Chair.
But Mr. Chairman, very clear. After the ERC reverse, it's 2011 decision to allow the pass on of franchise tax, 3%. They have now come out. And therefore, under the principle of the law of the case, that what is allowed before it is changed, before it is questioned, is legal. NGCP legally, passed on the 3%. So now clearly we have the new regime, and therefore they have to comply. That is the regulator. So therefore, the alleged violation of Section 9 tax provisions has no basis on the law and experience of the case. We go now to Section 7. Section 7 is about cross-ownership. IPIRA law provides for the prohibition of dispersal and so forth. Is it not, Chair De Malanta, that this bill provides for exemptions already to the rule? And therefore, what is stated in the IPIRA has now been overtaken and repealed by a later law and more specific law. This is now the franchise NGCP. Can you restate again what you have said earlier?
That's correct, Mr. Chair. There is, as far as the transmission operator or transmission concessionaire is concerned, there's been an amendment of that cross-ownership provision.
Mr. Chairman, in baseball, strike 3, strike out. So, Mr. Chairman, let's now go to the other issues. Because I have waited here and listened to the issue because, Mr. Chairman, if there's anything Congress will do, it is to give due process to everyone who comes here, and we follow the law and we follow the Constitution. Constitutional. It is stated the chairmanship of the NGCP by a Chinese citizen violates the Constitution. I will now read to you, Mr. Chairman, the exact provisions of Section 11, Article 12. That is on franchises. It states, Mr. Chairman, the participation of foreign investors in the governing body of any public utility enterprise, such as NGCP, shall be limited to their proportionate share in the capital, and all the executive and managing officers of such corporation or association must be citizens of the Philippines. This is what is referred to by some of our members. SEC, can you please tell us whether chairmanship of any board is an executive or managerial position?
We have here an SEC opinion. It's stated here that an alien national may assume the post of chairman of the board whose act shall be limited to that of a presiding officer during board meetings. So, if chairmanship, foreigner may be allowed as chairman of the board, but it should be qualified that his act should be limited to that of a presiding officer of a board meeting. So, if his role involves managerial roles that is already violative of the Constitution.
Very clear, Mr. Chairman. Strike 4, constitutional. Foreigners, as decided by the members of the board, can be chairman. There are some limitations, but precisely Atty. Malyari said that he presides, and normally presiding officers do not vote. Mr. Chairman, clearly the SEC has stated that foreigners, even minority foreigners, can be elected chairman as long as they preside. ERC, did you find any violation? Right now, you're not the new ERC. Did you find any violation of a Chinese being chairman of the NGCP?
Mr. Chair, we have not, the that is not part of the reset, so we have not evaluated that. With the request of Congressman Kimbo earlier, we will include it in our report once we study the shareholder structure as well.
Well, you have to be guided by the proceedings of the Constitutional Commission. That certainly membership in the board and chairmanship is not an executive or managerial position. And there are many other companies which have foreigners as chairmen. So your answer is that nobody has questioned this with you, correct? Has anybody filed a case against NGCP for the removal of this Chinese chairman? Has there been a case filed?
None, Mr. Chair.
How about the old board? I would like to hear Commissioner Maceda. Has there been a case filed in the ERC, you being the regulatory body, that says that, this Chinese should be ousted because it's not allowed by the Constitution? Has there been a case?
Well, from the time I joined the ERC, Your Honor, in 2018, I've not encountered any.
None, because nobody can question this because this is constitutional. So clearly, fourth issue, which had been ventilated, Mr. Chairman. Okay, and now, going to the BIR, to the issue back on taxes. Oh, where's the BIR? The BIR. Because the BIR with Commissioner Romeo Lumagi attended the Ways and Means Committee hearing the other week where I am a member. And what was the statement? I'd like to get confirmation BIR so that we will know that Section 8 has been religiously been complied as far as franchise tax is concerned. O asa na, nag-CR na naman. Well, without waiting, Mr. Chairman, I have here the revenue RMC 124 what was submitted. The answer to the question of violation of the franchise tax provisions, the answer of Chairman of Commissioner Romeo Lumagi is that the NGCP is fully compliant with the payment of all franchise taxes. See? So now I go to the last point, Mr. Chairman. Constitutional. Now, the issue now, and I'd like NGCP to answer this. The issue now is national security. That because the Chinese own 40%, there are allegations that there is a switchboard in China, that they will just close the entire country's supply of energy. Mr. Chairman, national security is not found in the Constitution. National security is provided for by words like national interest, economic development, socio-economic solidarity. National security is not there. But that principle, Mr. Chairman, pervades the Constitution. That primarily foremost in the country and the administrators of this country is national security, and that is why in the Constitution, the first article is national territory, because we have to defend our territory against any aggressor, including the West Philippine Sea, against these Chinese illegal trespassers of our West Philippine Sea, as decided already by the International Tribunal of July 12, 2016, the 9-dash line of China has no basis in law and in fact. They lost in 8 counts to the Philippines. And we thank President Pinoy for filing that case in the International Tribunal in Den Haag. National security. Oh, is it true that, these Chinese are going to, because if you say it's true, I will call for the revocation of your franchise. Can the Chinese close any of the 3 control points of the NGCP in the 3 islands of the islands of the Philippines? My island, the land of unfulfilled promise, Mindanao, the promise of the interconnection has been done. That's why I'm grateful. We will know. Is there a switchboard that is held by the chairman, Chinese, in Beijing? Is that correct? Let's have the answer. So that this is the national security concern, which I am also concerned, because we do not want China to have, a grip on our energy system. None, Mr. Chairman. Let's have the answer officially. You are under oath. Can the Chinese minority owners, can they sabotage your country by just stopping supply of energy to any part of the country? Answer, please.
They cannot, Mr. Chair.
Also, the answer of Mr. You're a lawyer like me, so let's give it to the more technical ones. Come here, Mr. Aguilar. Sometimes us lawyers would tend to, know everything, but this is something that is pertaining now to national security and the fact that these Chinese can never come to one of your control system site and go there and turn off the grid in Luzon or go to the Visayas or come to the city of Golden Friendship, my city of Cagayan de Oro, to be able to stop the supply of electricity in Mindanao. Can you now explain to us under oath what is the situation? Can they do it?
Yes, sir. They cannot control the power system of the Philippines with a single button. Yes, sir.
Any switchboard or control being held by people in Beijing or even in Guangzhou, nearer to us, that they can, interfere in the supply of energy in the Philippines?
None. None, sir.
And if they try to come to the 3 points, are you going to shoot them, which I suggest, to sabotage our supply? Will you do that, Mr. Aguilar? Do you have a gun?
Is Mr. Agustin.
Mr. Agustin. Oh,
I mean not.
will you allow a Chinese like me, think it looking,
Yes,
to
sir.
go there and then, disperse with the 3-man team and then put a button that will stop supply in Luzon? Can that happen?
We will not allow that to happen, but I think we will not shoot them, sir.
We should shoot them if they do that, because that is part of self-defense. So, Mr. Chairman, with all these testimonies from, first, the ERC, second, the SEC, third, the BIR, through my statement, and the NGCP. So, Mr. Chairman, in this committee, what are we talking about? What are we talking about? What do you want to do with NGCP? It has complied with all of the requirements of the franchise. It has complied with the Constitution. So that is what the question is, but you don't have to answer, because that is the prerogative of the Committee on Franchise to look into all the franchises of this country and be able to evaluate their performance and have even a motu proprio investigation. So thank you so much for
Thank
the
you very
opportunity,
much.
Mr. Chairman. Again, Cagayan de Oro and Mindanao is thankful for the interconnection of our lines to the Visayas and to
Thank you
Mindanao.
very much.